1 week season.
Hello, 1 week season fam, La Familia. It is Mike Johnson, M Johnson 86, as I am known in the DFS streets, coming at you here today. It is Friday, October 13th. That's right, Friday the 13th. We got some scary things coming for you today. We got some scary lineups. We are going to frighten the competition with our next level game theory this week, week 6 of the NFL season. The 1/3 point, we are completing the first leg of the 3-leg marathon. And I'm going to bring on my colleague, Maximus. How are you doing today?
So far, so good, Mike. Pleasure to be with you again. You know, the 1 week season icon is orange and black. Very apropos for this month.
Yes, Friday the 13th. I got I'm rocking the orange hat again today. We're, stay inside, people. Frightening things coming out tonight. I'm going to be throwing together my player grid later. It's an interesting week for sure. The second week of the bye weeks, we've only got 2 teams on bye though this week, and we've got another London game, of course. Who doesn't love those wonderful London games? But 11 games on the slate, so a little bigger than last week, but still one of the smaller main slates we're going to see. It should be an interesting week. I write the Oracle questions in the scroll every week. I write the questions for that, and then myself, JM, Zandamir, and Hilo, we go and give our answers, just different variables throughout the week. And that was one of the questions, is always, what makes this slate particularly unique? And to me, it's that there isn't like that premium game environment. Like, this is the first time I think all year where there's no game on the slate with a total over 50. Actually, the highest single game total on the slate, I believe it's like 47 and a half. I guess the Rams Cardinals might be up to 48 now. But there's that game, and then the Dolphins, I think it's at 47 or 48 as well, but they're 2 touchdown favorites. And then everything else is like below like 45 or less. So, it's interesting. You don't have that like truly standout 2 great offenses facing each other. That'll be kind of interesting seeing how that plays out.
Staying with the Friday the 13th theme, one could see this as a scary slate because there's not a lot of clarity, in my opinion, to this point. We're still waiting on a lot of injury news as usual. It seems like a little more so now as we get deeper into the season. And yeah, to your point, it's the lines are blurred, but it's exciting. And on the other hand, on the different pathways you could go to differentiate and hopefully separate yourself if those decisions play out to their ceiling.
Definitely. So we will get into it then. I'll pull up your, and I guess before we get into it, want to remind, if you're watching this, please like and subscribe, leave comments. If you guys have questions, I know you can see from our views that our viewership is going up. If you guys have questions or specific topics related to Fanduel, or our strategies that you would love to hear us talk about, leave comments, and we'll try to get into it next week and take your feedback, and kind of adjust the show. Of course, this is the first year we're doing this, so it's very, very early in the process, and what direction we go with things, and kind of how the show grows and matures. Definitely want to take viewers' consideration into that. So like and subscribe, leave comments. Would love to hear back from you. Always love that community engagement. So with that, I'm going to hop into it. Again, this is the 30K Sunday NFL touchdown on FanDuel. It's a 5-entry max tournament that Maximus is building for. It is a $65 entry. So $325 is his Total allocation for this tournament, $325 for the week. 5 entries, pays out 25% of the field. First place is $4,000. And we've got Maximus's lineup here up on the screen. You want to kind of take us through this, how you did with me before we got on the recording?
Sure enough. A quick recap. Last week, my results, my best team. Once again, I had a week where I had a team that was circling around the top 10 of this tournament. It wound up finishing 47th of 524. And seemingly what I've been experiencing so far this year in my play is I'm getting overtaken by an elite 4 o'clock flex player who's just blowing up for a ceiling game. That's what's happened to me like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And my overall team that's in the best contention doesn't have that particular player on it, maybe because it's overall more balanced. But again, you're at the mercy of the elite players. Like you said last week, there's a reason they're priced that way, because every once in a while they hit a ceiling that nobody else can. And I got overtaken again for probably a third time out of 5 weeks, getting around the top 10. 1 week I was actually first place until I think that was the CMAC week. But yeah, so I have to keep this in mind. And this team that we're about to go over kind of has that recent experience preparing for in mind on this week. So we start out with Justin Fields. Don't think we've built a team with him yet this year, but per Mike's Fanduel course, which you guys, if you play Fanduel at all, you should definitely acquire. Dual threat, rushing quarterbacks. We love them on Fanduel. And it's interesting. Justin Fields seems to be, to me, in a similar spot that he was last year. He went a few weeks where people were wondering if he should even be an NFL quarterback. And then seemingly he went about 4 or 5 weeks where he just exploded and he was a had-to-have quarterback. And I feel he's in the midst of that right now. And he's at home against a average defense, probably better than some people think it is, but definitely no world beaters. So I got Justin Fields. I do have him paired, which does seem thin on the face of it, I'm sure, for smaller field, but I have him paired with Darnell Mooney here. My thinking is the price to balance out my team in other areas. Also, the Bears are, with the exception of Fields, which is what you want for the rushing upside, are pretty much going to be without a running game this week. There's no Khalil Herbert, and the rookie, what was his name? Rashawn Johnson. Rashawn Johnson, yeah. He's looking iffy to play. So I think that's going to filter more targets to the pass game when it's applicable. Now, Cole Kmet is another, and of course DJ Moore. They're all great pairing partners with Fields. But as a rushing quarterback, you really don't necessarily have to double stack a quarterback like Fields. Cole Kmet popped up on the injury report with a hamstring, which you never want to see that type of injury when it comes to late in the week. So monitor that, of course. So in this case, I decided to pick Mooney because he's not a slot guy. He's a deep threat. He's a speedster. And he does have history with Fields. I mean, he is capable of popping a big play and being able to at least not crater you at his price point. So I have Fields, Mooney. I have a run back of Alexander Madison. Now, I don't know what ownership is like yet, so I could be wrong on this, but I would imagine that a huge chunk of the field is going to turn to the Vikings passing attack with Hawkinson, Powell, Addison, and Osborne. But Alexander Madison, he doesn't ever seem to be super owned, and he's got the 3rd most red zone targets of any running back in the league to this point. He has scored 2 touchdowns so far. He is still considered the lead back. I would imagine some people may have reservations of Cam Akers possibly starting to dig more into Madison's work, but doesn't really bother me. I think it's a good run back partner on this particular team. But if you're doing 5 teams, again, you can have Kmet as a pairing partner. You could have DJ Moore on another team. You could have Hawk, the Vikings passing pieces. So for this particular lineup, I wanted to do Madison. Then we have Chuba Hubbard. Now, Chuba Hubbard, apparently, Miles Sanders doesn't appear like he's going to play. He hasn't practiced at all this week. we're recording this Friday morning, so we don't know what the Friday report is going to show. So this is kind of a caveat asterisk. If Sanders winds up playing, I may adjust this because I figure a lot of people are going to be on the Cardinals running back, who's only 400 more. I think this is good leverage off of the potential high ownership of that guy. And Chuba Hubbard does get thrown the ball. I think he would still be involved even if the Dolphins go up early. And, the Dolphins aren't the most shut down, like lock button run defense in football. So I do like Chuba Hubbard there. I mean, I'm sure if Sanders is deemed completely out early enough, his ownership, I would imagine, would go up some, but probably won't be as owned as the Cardinal guy, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But and then I have Jalen Waddle, so that's a skinny stack. You have Waddle and Hubbard for that game. And Jalen Waddle, he got a touchdown last week. He's definitely been getting more targeted by Tua. I think, it's definitely in the cards. A breakout game could be on the horizon for him. Obviously, Jamar Chase goes without saying. One thought would be, well, he had the big ceiling game last week. Do you really want to go back to him 2 weeks in a row? But Seattle is attackable in the pass game. And more about that, Waddle and Chase in a moment, because you can actually flip these guys around to counterparts and still keep the base of this team the same. Logan Thomas is tight end. Atlanta, definitely a good pass defense, but it seems like if there is a hole in their defense, it's at the tight end spot this year. And I was kind of just for myself looking over, I can't believe how many targets Logan Thomas has been getting peppered with over the last few weeks. Big target, good price. And then that leads me to the flex spot, which I've been getting shredded on as far as other teams against me in this tournament. So maybe I should do the defense first. Tampa Bay Bucks defense, cheap defense. They're coming off a bye week. They're well rested. They're at home. Jared Goff, typically not as great away from home. I believe the tight end Laporta popped up with an injury. Amon-Ra is definitely going to play, but I'm sure he won't, with the abdomen injury recovering from, he won't be at 100%, I'm sure. And historically, the Bucks are hard to run on. I mean, not as much this year, but for cheap defenses, based on this particular build, I think the Tampa Bay defense at 3,400 I can stomach it. And then we get to the flex spot. And I currently have Devontae Adams in there. Got to watch his injury news, of course, but he is the most targeted player, wide receiver, tight end, running back in the red zone in football through 5 weeks, playing a reeling Pats team at home. But what's cool about this spot at 8,300 is you could go Devontae on this team. Then on another team, you could play Kyren Williams from that Rams-Cardinals game. There's A.J. Brown that's available, even though he's in a tougher matchup with the Jets this week. And you can get to Josh Jacobs, the other part of that Raiders offense in the flex. So there's a lot of ways you can differentiate that flex spot with high volume towards elite players to give you something to look forward to in the 4 o'clock window, either if you're already ahead or if you need to catch up. Real quick, and I'll throw it to you, sir. Waddle and Chase, you could easily flip that to Tyreek Hill for Waddle. You could flip Jamar Chase to Chris Godwin at 6,300. And then you still retain that flex spot flexibility between the 4 o'clock players. One other guy I did forget to mention, if you wanted to do 1 o'clock in the flex, the team before we just switched, you could pair Jamar Chase with Kenneth Walker. And that would be a unique skinny stack in that game environment. And you could put Walker in the flex, keep Waddle, and put Chase. And then you have a very correlated team of Fields, Mooney, Madison, Chuba, Waddle, Chase, and Walker. So that's another route you could go. So I guess the end point of this team is I want to give myself ultimate flexibility in that flex spot because that's kind of what's been catching up to me and kind of burning my placement when it gets to the 4 o'clock window. But I'll throw it back to you.
Gotcha. Yeah. We'll start with the Sorry, I'm trying to get it back to where it was.
Yeah, it was Waddle Chase.
Yeah.
And we had Devontae Adams in the flex.
Let's start with the Bears. The Bears pairing with Madison. So, I do think, it's interesting. The Bears, like DJ Moore was the only wide receiver to see a target last week. Like not to catch a pass, but like even to be targeted. So like it's like that's so wild. Or no, maybe it was just to catch a pass. Yeah, because Mooney got 4 targets. Okay. He was the only one to catch a pass. Moore was. But regardless, that's kind of like alarming, and it makes it hard to play a guy like that. And it's interesting because I think this spot is one where, like you brought up, like, well, maybe this is a little thin because this guy is not the greatest. He doesn't have that dependable volume for like small field. Is that like too thin? But I think for a guy like Mooney, I guess I would say my thought is more, I think volume is underrated when thinking about ceiling, because people just think about ceiling and they think about like, oh, this guy could have, like, he's a big play threat. Like he's a ceiling guy that's large field only. But like, I see it as a guy like Mooney. So they're playing the Vikings, who by far blitz at the highest rate in the NFL, leads to a lot of back end man-to-man coverage. Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator from Minnesota, obviously they know that DJ Moore is the main, he's the main show in town there. You think about Cole Kmet, who he's been limited both days in practice. It's not like he was fine one day and then it popped up Thursday. So, I mean, my gut is that he'll be all right to play, but when you're facing a team that's going to blitz that often, he might, even if he's not even to stay in to block, he might have to like just chip a defensive end before he heads out on his route or pick up a blitz. So, there's just some factors where, like Mooney, he could have 2 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. And like, it's actually a situation where in large field, that doesn't really help you that much. Like he doesn't really, I don't think, have that like that great of ceiling. I think he actually might be a little bit better play in a tournament like this because you just need that one play. Like if he scores a 40-yard touchdown at his price in the size of tournament that this is, like you're fine. Like you're totally fine. And when you look at the receivers in that price range, Zay Jones is out. Dotson's been up and down. Josh Downs will probably be a little bit more popular with Minshew, the pocket passer there. There's not like a lot of good options under 6K there. So, if it's a correlated piece, like if he scores that 40, 50-yard touchdown, you talked about Fields, his rushing ability, how dependent they're probably going to be on him this week with their running game having issues. Like if Fields is going to be one of those top quarterbacks, a 40 or 50-yard touchdown is probably a good chance it's going to come from there. And if it's not from DJ Moore, there's a good chance it could be Mooney. It's kind of gone. The Bears played that Thursday night game last week, and so there's not that much focus on those teams sometimes. But the Chase Claypool, him being out of there now, Mooney, I think he fits here. I don't think it's too thin at all. I think like I wouldn't ever play Mooney as just like a one-off. But I think in this particular situation, because I saw the same thing as you with DJ Moore, like his price is so high now that it's kind of tough to get there. He could have another really good game, but it seems unlikely that he's going to have another game at the level where he's like crushing you or paying off his salary, like a 25-point Fanduel game. Seems like it'll be tough for him to get there a third straight week. So, yeah, I mean, somebody's got to do it if Fields is going to get there. And sometimes it's just like process of elimination. And I don't think it's too thin at all. The Madison thing I think is interesting. They lost Jefferson. Like you said, a lot of the focus is going to be on how the passing pieces fit in there. But also the Vikings, I think, have the highest pass rate in the NFL. But two things come from that. One, they have been in terrible game scripts for most of their 5 games so far, playing from behind, so they're chucking it. And 2, they had arguably the best receiver in the NFL. So, there's a good chance they're favored in this game. The Bears have struggled for most of the year. So, they could lead and they could just lean more run heavy just because, their personnel has changed significantly. So, yeah, I think Madison's an interesting piece. And I think he fits really well on here. The Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Waddle, I like that. You referenced my course. Like Hubbard is a cheap running back. He is going to get volume if we assume that Sanders is out. I don't think that the Arizona running backs are going to be popular at all. Keontae Ingram is back this week as well. So it's just a situation where it's like a split backfield and neither of them's that good and their matchup's not terrific. So I don't really expect either of them to be very popular, but like you don't need leverage. Like if it's a good play, it's a good play. And I think, Hubbard, again, at that price point, what he opens up, you've got some correlation there with Waddle. And thinking through the situation, I mean, Waddle is, we talked about him last week too, I think. He is like, he's sub 7K and he's a guy who has kind of been overshadowed by the running game and Tyreek, but very, very talented. Dolphins, probably the best offense in football right now. So, having him on the team makes sense. And then Hubbard just plays into that really nicely because, if Carolina is able to score some points early and Hubbard's kind of acting as their feature back, there's a good chance he's a part of that. He has some pass catching chops. We kind of saw them against Detroit last week. Their offense put together some things as the game went on. That game ended up like 42-24 or something. Just garbage time. Like they're going to keep playing. Like that's the thing. They've got Bryce Young, the number 1 pick. They don't own their first round pick next year. So like, even when they're getting crushed, which could be the case this week, like they're going to keep like balls to the wall, trying to get the ball in his hands, trying to like make the most of every possession. Try to not make it like even an ugly loss, try to get the most out of it, for the long term that they can. So really like that play. And then, yeah, I mean, you talk about the bottom, the end to this lineup, really Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams, really hard to question either of them. I mean, Chase we saw what he's capable of, has a good matchup. Adams playing the Patriots. They play a ton of man coverage and they lost their top cornerback rookie. Christian Gonzalez is on injured reserve. They kind of look in shambles. So I did the edge write-up for that game this week. And the Patriots defense is kind of in shambles. And it'll be interesting because the Raiders haven't scored 20 points yet this year. And the Patriots, they made the Saints look like the 72 Dolphins or whatever last week. Just made them look like absolutely dominant. So, it'll be interesting there. Like, what gives? Do the Patriots look better, or do the Raiders actually put up some points? But yeah, I mean, Adams can score touchdowns, and then I think Logan Thomas, the volume there, and the Bucs defense against they're a good defense who blitzes a lot and gets pressure against a quarterback who struggled against pressure. So, yeah, I mean, I think it all makes sense for sure.
A quick note, by the way, on Chuba Hubbard, even with Miles Sanders in the game, I believe he out-touched him, or he was even with Sanders in, just for reference. But have to look that up to make sure, but I'm pretty sure he either out-touched or had just as much opportunity as Sanders did. And again, even more so if Sanders isn't playing. But just a quick note there.
Yeah, he's out-touched him the last 2 weeks. They were like in a pretty even split each of the last 2 weeks. And I mean, Hubbard, part of that's game script. Like it seems like they throw Hubbard in there when they're like hurry up and behind. Also, like Sanders has been kind of battling. He was battling a groin injury. Now it looks like he's got a shoulder thing. So, I mean, I'd be kind of surprised if they play him here. Just like it seems like this guy's just like really beat up. Your 2 touchdown dogs in Miami, like just leave him home. Don't even put him on the plane.
And to elaborate on your point, I think their bye week maybe next week. So even more reason why.
Yep.
Maybe you would just bring them back after the bye.
Yeah, it's a week 7 bye.
And then real quick, we have $100 left over. So that flex spot, as much as I love Devontae, of course, you could go up a spot to Kenneth Walker, and he makes a good skinny stack with Jamar Chase in that game. I mean, you'd be 1 o'clock heavy there with just the defense in the 4 o'clock window, but it's definitely something I'm considering for one of my 5 teams in this particular tournament.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting there. A lot of times I struggle with that. So like if I'm doing those like skinny stacks like that, the issue for me is if like for those 2 guys, their combined price is 17.7. So that's like you need a lot of points combined from them. So that's a lot of times on the skinny stacks, I'll look to do like if I'm using like a stud expensive piece from one side to find like a little bit more like the salary saver type. So like if I was going to correlate that, then like maybe I would go with like a cheaper, like either DK Metcalf at 7,500 or even more so probably Tyler Lockett at 66. And just because like if you look at those 2 pieces from like a combinatorial angle, like what you need that block, that 2-player block to accomplish, it's so high when both players' salaries are high. It's unlikely, I guess, that both of them are going to get there. Now, if they did, like, so if you were going to play Chase and Walker, if you were just like really confident, you're like that, no, I think this is going to be really good. It's going to get there. Well, in that case, then like on this lineup, I'd be playing Burrow.
Burrow, absolutely. Yep.
Because it's like, okay, like, because part of Chase, when you're correlating, part of it is you're looking at it as a 2-player block. So it's like, okay, well, maybe this higher priced piece, maybe it doesn't totally pay off itself, but it does well. And this cheaper guy, he can go like way over it. But like when both your guys are really expensive, if one of them just does like, okay, has like a 15 to 18 point week, then the other one, like he's got to have like such a ceiling game to make up for it, to keep you kind of on that pace with other rosters. And if that were to happen here, Chase is the one that seems like he'd be most likely to like go over it. And if he does, then you've got a situation where, Burrow's probably just continuing to cook. So I'd go him instead of Fields, and then probably use that $1,000, to find a different wide receiver, someone in that 6K range. You got Nico Collins, Addison, Reynolds, Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett. Yeah,
Jacoby Myers.
Yep. So there's a lot. Yeah, Jacoby Myers, if you were playing Adams on other teams. So, there's just kind of thinking through that process of, I think correlation is like a fancy, like fun word. There's like levels to it. And then people think like, oh yeah, like correlation, like, yeah, I'm going to play this guy from this team and this guy from that team. But I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, not every player, just because they're playing against each other, is correlated, is kind of one thing about it. And also, sometimes players who are correlated, you got to be aware of what those price tags are, and then what that means. Like, you might need to correlate more if you're going to play those two players together. So, just kind of some backstory and thought process there that I put in as I think about rosters.
That's a good thought on skinny stacks that have two potentially elite players. That could create a situation where you need to adjust more at the top there. And then my only other thought would be probably 3 of my 5 teams in that flex spot. I had, like I said, initially on this team, I had Devontae Adams, but you're probably going to need a Ram based on the way that game environment's most likely to go in LA. So the good news about that is you have that flexibility on maybe some of the other teams if you're doing a 5-entry max, of course, where you can take out Walker and Adams. You could put in Kyron Williams. You could put in Puka Nacua. So there's different Rams that you can insert in the flex on maybe some other teams. So you make sure that you get exposure to that game environment. Cooper Kupp, I think, if you change the defense a little bit. So that's another thing I would say probably. Obviously, it wasn't seen or emphasized on this particular team, but I definitely have Rams in mind, especially in the flex around those same price points for reference.
Yeah, for sure. And it's and I don't think you ever have to that's one mistake I think people make is thinking in every lineup I have to account for this team, this specific team, whatever. It's something I actually it's easy to fall into. Like last week I was really high on Dallas Goedert. I played him a lot.
He was on my best team too. He was on my best team too. Yeah. My top team.
And
Thielen too. Thielen was my guy last week.
Okay. Yeah. So I was really high on Goddard, but I also really liked Hawkinson, especially on Fanduel, because he was he's just cheaper on Fanduel, and he was very affordable. He is again this week. He had an okay game, 5 for 51, but so I kind of played, I would say I was about 40% Goddard, 40% Hawkinson, and then 20% probably between Laporta and Pitts. I was pretty good with tight ends last week. But where I'm going with this is I was when I went back through my rosters, it's pretty clear I was trying to account for the Eagles on every roster. And Devontae Smith was kind of the guy that it was okay, I don't have Goddard in this lineup, so I'm going to play Devontae because, and it's something I'll do with those two receivers is try to kind of go against the field just because I think both of them have big ceilings. And so Devontae was cheaper and lower owned. But at the same time, I ended up playing him more than I should have just because it was okay, Goddard's not on this lineup, so I'll play Devontae with Hawkinson. And there was a lot of lineups that I had where they had it was set up really well, but then it had Devontae and Hawkinson in it. And it was just then it's just maybe on the cash line. But the other, 6 of the other 7 spots were really good picks. So, it's just an interesting thing. You bring up the Rams, I think it's totally okay. And you probably want to make sure, if you're building lots of lineups, the team can do well and it can just be split among who gets it, and you don't really have to have anybody from the team to win. And the flip side of that is if one of the guys does become kind of a had to have it, he scores so much that you needed him to win, well, then your rosters that have a different guy from that team are just dead. So, if you think, okay, I have to account for this team on every build, it can kind of come back to bite you, especially on FanDuel where touchdowns are king, right? It's so easy for if a high price guy, if a guy that's 8,500, if he has 10 catches for 130 yards. Like, that's not really very good for him. Like, he needs to get in the box. Like, it doesn't hurt you, but like for that price, like, you're going to need some major overachievers besides that. So, and speaking of that, so I came across this week, did the NFL Edge write-ups. I always have the afternoon games because I do my afternoon only write-up. And one of those games is the Eagles and Jets. So I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was interesting. So the Eagles have only scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns in a game once this season. They are 27th in the league in red zone touchdown percentage this year. Last year they were 3rd in the league, or they were 4th in the league last year. And the Jets defense is 3rd in red zone touchdown percentage. Like, they're the 3rd best team at preventing their opponents from scoring touchdowns. So, just a couple different angles you can go on with that. Like, one is like the Eagles are struggling in the red zone. The Jets have been really good in the red zone. It wouldn't be surprising if this is like the Eagles just win this game like 20-6 or something. And it's just ugly. Like, the Jets can't move the ball. The Eagles have like 5 field goals or something. It's like 22-6. But on the flip side, like, that dam could burst at any moment. Like the Eagles have been uncharacteristically bad in the red zone. So, and the Jets have kind of been, their defense has held up and kind of kept teams from having these big scoring weeks, but it's been really close. Like, if you're they've given up the most field goals per game in the NFL. So like, you're facing a really talented team. Like, it wouldn't be hard for that to all of a sudden turn into like, boom, 4 touchdowns. So just an interesting spot I wanted to bring up from my edge research and something to kind of think about. And specifically, we're talking about Fanduel here, obviously. So it's interesting, just that TD variance, how critical that is to the weekly results on that site.
And to add on to that, I actually like DeAndre Swift this week. His price is only $7,200 on FanDuel, so he's another flex option you could go down to, and then maybe kind of boost another position on as far as this existing team that we're showing. It seems like he's right on the cusp of breaking out. He's had a pretty solid production most weeks, and he could be a pathway to a cheaper one than Smith and AJ.
Yeah,
and got Gardner and company to deal with in the pass defense, but
yeah, and to the point, what we talked about last week with or what I talked about a little bit ago with the Eagles and their lack of touchdowns and how inefficient they've been. Like, Swift, he's their stud. He's their their bell cow running back. He's basically the guy for them. And, but he's only got 2 touchdowns on the season. And with the amount of volume he's seen from week 2 on, you look at 31 touches, 18, 18, and 23. That's a lot of work. And if they do have that 4 touchdown game all of a sudden, and it's a game that they're in control of, wouldn't be surprising at all for it to be, a Swift 2 touchdown, 120-yard game or something. So, yeah, definitely a guy who I don't think will be popular. There's that stigma around the Jets defense, and they are a good defense. I think they have talent and they're well coached, but I don't think he's going to gain a lot of steam. And he's a very reasonable price, and a guy who, with that touchdown variance being so important here, could definitely pay off.
Agreed on that.
All right. Do you got anything else before we before we head out and let the people get to their roster building?
I'm hungry. I'm frustrated, but excited, and look forward to digging deeper with the OWS fam on the write-ups and on the Oracle guys on Saturday, and definitely check that out. And hopefully rounding into form a little more confidence, because right now there's a lot of, like I said earlier, in my opinion, there's definitely some clarity to still be had as we move deeper into finalizing teams. But yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Try to avoid anything frightful on this Friday the 13th. And yeah, good luck this week. I'm sure we'll be in touch. Hopefully you'll be sending me a screenshot Sunday night. And yeah, it should be a fun one. It always is. Best of luck to the viewers. Again, like, subscribe, comment. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to tailor this thing to your needs, to your wants. And we are going to be back with you next week, week 7, to go over Maximus's first place FanDuel winning lineup. OWS fam, best of luck. See you in the lobbies. We're out.
1 week season.